Okay, this is the Mamiya 645. Let's talk about it. Okay, I've had the Mamiya 645 for almost a year now. This is the first real film camera that I ever purchased, and it has been nothing but an amazing experience. This is the camera that I like to say made me fall in love with film photography, and I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about why. There's so many different variations of the Mamiya 645. You have the Mamiya 645E, you have the Pro TL, you have the Super, and you have the 1000S. And so there's so many different versions that honestly you have the option of picking up. In this video, I'm gonna be breaking down what I think are some of the pros of this camera, some of the cons of this camera, and just a few recommendations that I have if this is the next camera that you plan on buying. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. And the first pro that I'm going to have in this video is that this camera is fully medium format. Now with medium format, you have so many different variations. You have 6x4.5, you have 6x6, 6x7, 6x9, and honestly the list goes on and on. Even though that this is the smallest version of a medium format size, it is still medium format, so you do get that medium format quality, that amazing depth of field, and that image quality that you're probably looking for if you're thinking about moving up from a 35mm camera. The next pro that I have for this camera is the fact that it's honestly extremely sharp. And obviously that plays a huge role with the lens that you decide to buy, but the overall build of the camera with the lens just allows you to have some of the best images that you'll probably be able to take. I've been taking photos with this camera for almost a year now, and honestly, every time that I take a shoot with it, it just never disappoints. I always love the amazing depth of field. I love the quality that I get from the images, and this is just the best camera that I could have had to start off my film journey. Another pro about this camera is the fact that this camera is completely customizable. You can break it down as much as you possibly can. You can change the film back, you can change the prism finder, you can change the lens, you can change the body. You honestly have the ability to customize this camera to the exact way that you want it to be, whether you want it to be more automatic or whether you want it to be more mechanical. That's a huge feature, especially when you're buying a camera like this, because you can source different parts and still have a very good working camera. I really love the fact that I've been able to customize the camera to my liking, and it's honestly done me so great throughout this past year. Another thing that I really love about this camera is the fact that you have the option to change the film backs. You could have one film back that has black and white, you could have another film back that has color, and you could honestly change them in between the shoots without having to change or ruin an entire roll. This is really, really convenient, especially if you're somebody who likes to play around with multiple films, or even if you're doing a film review and you're comparing two different films. As long as you have two different film backs, you don't need to ruin an entire roll or finish a roll early just so you can get to the next one. You can just change the back of the camera and be able to swap the films throughout the entire photo shoot. Another thing that I really love about this camera is the fact that if the film screen is in, it won't allow you to take a picture. Some medium format cameras, regardless if the film screen is in or not, the picture will still take and you'll just get an empty black photo. But with this camera, it doesn't allow the picture to actually take because of the fact that the film screen is in. And so if you are new to film photography, it's probably a really good camera to have because it's gonna remind you, hey, to take out your film screen so that way you don't miss out on that amazing shot that you wanted to take. Another pro that I really like about this camera is the fact that it is 6x4.5, so you have 15 shots. And so if you are new to film photography or new to medium format, it allows you to make just a little bit more mistakes than you would with something like a 6x7 format, which probably only gives you about 10 shots. With that being said, I just want to move into some of the cons that I have for this camera. And although there aren't many, there are a few that maybe you might want to consider before actually purchasing one. With the first con being the simple fact that this is medium format, but it is 6x4.5. And so it is not 6x7. And so if you are new to film photography and you've maybe watched somebody do a photo shoot with something like a Mamiya RZ67 or RB67, or even something like the Pentax 67, the quality that you might see in some of those images may not be the same with your Mamiya 6x4.5. Another con to this camera is that if you are new to film photography, 120mm film is a little bit pricier than 35mm film. So you'll find yourself spending a lot more money on film than you probably would having something like a 35mm camera. And also you get a lot less shots. So the price that you're paying per film photo is a lot more expensive. So just to be aware of that before you actually think about purchasing this camera or any medium format camera in general. Another con to this camera is if you are moving up from 35mm or if you've never done film photography in your life at all, this camera might seem a little bit bulkier to you. And although this is a lot slimmer than some of the bigger 6x7 cameras like the Mamiya RZ67, this is something that you kind of need two hands to hold when you're taking a photo. And so if you're gonna be traveling, or if this is something that you're thinking about buying to do a lot of quick street photography, this may not be the best camera for you because it is a little bit bulkier and you may not want to carry it around all the time. And now let's move on to some of the recommendations that I have. I know that this camera is extremely customizable and you have the ability to literally pick and choose almost everything and every feature that you want with this camera. But I would recommend using an eye prism viewfinder instead of a waist level viewfinder. Personally, the viewfinder that I've been using has honestly helped me take some amazing shots, and sometimes when it gets a little bit sunny, that waist level viewfinder may not be the best decision. Maybe wait a little bit till you're a little bit more experienced with medium format and then think about purchasing one. But for a camera like this, I think the prism viewfinder is perfectly fine and it does the job exactly the way that you need it to do. Another recommendation that I have for this camera is that if you're thinking about picking one up, mine has an automatic winder and sometimes it kind of messes up when I'm loading the film and I may not always get those 15 shots. Sometimes I'm lucky to get 13. And so if you can stick to a manual winder, that would probably be a lot more beneficial to you because that way you could at least know that the manual winder might give you your 15 shots more often. That's not to say that the automatic winder isn't good. It's just something to keep in mind. Maybe down the line, if you want to get one, it might be good, but I would think to start off, at least try the manual one. And the last recommendation that I would have is that if you're moving up from a 35mm camera and you're having your doubts and questions, wondering if this camera will be able to perform to the capabilities that you think, trust me, I'm here to calm your nerves to tell you that this camera will do literally everything that you can imagine and more. Now, with all that being said, you can honestly tell that I love this camera. This camera has been amazing, it's been reliable, and it's done literally everything that I needed to in the past year. I don't think that this is something that I plan on selling anytime soon, even when I start to get more and more medium format cameras. I really wanted to make this video and to keep it short and concise for you all. I just wanted to tell you all a little bit about some of the pros and cons that I have when it comes to this camera and medium format in general. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up, comment, tell me what are some of your favorite cameras or some of your favorite medium format cameras to get into film photography, and if you could, subscribe to the channel so that we can keep growing this family. I appreciate all the support, and until the next one, peace.
Up all night just dreaming, up all night just drifting in my thoughts again.